That was the third time I said no to Diddy. I was like, no, I'm not flying out. Everything that was said or may have been mentioned here in this video is considered public domain and education and entertainment purposes only. No baby oil was used in the filming of. I can't even go on. All right. 50. I highly doubt you're ever going to watch any of my videos. The odds are against it, but I like the cut of your jib, sir. You're a funny man. Your level of petty is just getting up to my level. All right. And that says a lot. All right, guys, what's going on? It is the Bad Wolf. As always, welcome to the den. Dun, dun, dun. We're going to do right to travel, and this is for Michigan. Are you a Michigan or a Michigant? We're going to take a look at right to travel. And this is the last one. I know, yeah, I know you guys are like, come on, Wolf. You said it like 10 last go videos ago. Yes, but from here on out, after this one, no more. Okay? That's it. Because I want you guys to learn how to start doing your own thing. So unless you guys are having major problems, I do appreciate in the comments you guys asking, can you do mine? I mean, I don't even know how many I've done, at least 10 or 15 at this point in time. Like I said, unless I, for some reason, have a change of heart and just go, you know what, screw it, let's just do every state and we'll just knock it out at 50. And then I become the reigning overlord of right to travel on the internet through YouTube as the lord of the private who's been doing this for 40 years and 10 or whatever it's been on YouTube. Yeah, I probably won't do all that. So, all right. So let's take a look. As always, hit the. Well, I'm too poor to animate it. So just imagine like, bell, and subscribe popping up there. And all right. So let's get me back over here to the other side. All right. So let's jump to Michigan. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Now we're on the Great Lakes. Let's get it. So, Michigan, once again, their definitions are all commercial. Commerce, commerce, commerce. Commerce, commerce, commerce. Public, public, public. Not the same as private. Okay. So, under Michigan statute MCL 257.243, non-resident owners exempt from registration. It says non-resident with valid registration in another state or country. Now, notice what they did here. It's a lowercase s on state. This means all of the types of states out there: paper, physical, mental, whatever. If they really were trying to say they've got deeper control, especially over the organic, it would have been a capitalized S here or all capitalized S for the corporate, federal, but they can't. So they must include all of it in this generic lowercase letter form. They can't control the organic. They can't say we have absolute control over the capitalized S version here. They've got some, but not all. Or country. They really, well, and see here, even the word state, contained within the word state, is also the word nation. And also the word country is also synonymous with the word nation. So your own nation and your government, if you create one, also then falls underneath state as well. Your trust, irrevocable, falls underneath state. Your unincorporated association falls underneath that as well. Those are all of the different types of states. Not all of them, but some of them. It says you may operate their vehicle, operate once again, they're starting to swing it commercial. Because once again, when in Rome, you do as the Romans. So they're using their devil language. They're saying, yeah, you as a private citizen with private registration, foreign from a different state or country, etc., may use your vehicle in the organic Michigan state area. That's how it should be written. But they don't want to give you that kind of easy peasy power. So they have to speak their devil language to confuse it. So if you don't know how to use it, you lose it. So they speak their tongue. Just like, any other language, demon talk, legalese, pig Latin, street lingo, ebonics. Remember when that came out? These children are speaking ebonics. So they're speaking their ebonics right here. They're not going to call you private citizens. They refer to you as non-residents. If you're not one of them, a resident, then you're not. And then this covers everybody else out there. So they're saying if you're not one of us and you have a valid registration from another state or country, you may operate. Now they're starting to commercialize. So they're already telling you right here, you're exempt. But then they start to slide in this. So understand this. You are already exempt as a non-resident owner from non-resident owners with your own private registration. They're already telling you right here, you're exempt. But they start to commercialize it and put that old dog dookie into the cake at the end here. So they're saying, yeah, you're exempt, but you may operate your vehicle in Michigan without a Michigan registration. So it's a two-part sentence here or paragraph. It's two-part. They're telling you right here you're exempt. But then they're saying if you operate your vehicle, keyword in Michigan, which is the corporation on paper, not the private, not the organic, the de facto, not the de jure, without a Michigan registration, so long as it is not used for hire. For hire is a commercial term or as a commercial vehicle. So Michigan's a little bit cooler. They're just like, look, brah, you can use that there whip with no L's as long as you're good somewhere else and it's official. While being ups in Michigan over here without getting L's from here. As long as you ain't doing no business in our area, that is our business. So don't be here selling your drugs to our people, essentially, because that's our area, our business. That's what they're saying. Operator, oh, commercial. Licensing, oh, commercial. Oh, I see a requirements. Remember, mens, government, This means mind. This means mind. Government, govern means to control minds. Quire or to query, question, to want something. So to re-want something of your mind is they want you to get a license and to learn how to do this professionally, commercially, under their regulations. Statute says a person shall not operate a motor vehicle on the highway unless licensed. This is absolutely correct for a driver. A private person needs to know the operation of a vehicle properly, but this is also, there's no law. See, here's where it starts to fall apart. There is no law requiring you to be licensed if you're private. They cannot force you to have something that you can do without. But now moving, let's say, like, I don't know, 5 tons of like liquid oxygen or driving Miss Daisy. That's all commercial. You cannot use those roads and make public money for yourself. They control the public of commercial. If you're doing something where you're dealing with multiple people, that is generally considered commercial. Your operation is commercial. If I were to make a firearm, or excuse me, an arm, make it, and then barter it to you, that's a private event. But if I start making tons of them and selling to anybody, that's commercial. So your vehicle, you're not doing commercial stuff unless you're doing Uber or DoorDash or etc. They control your, that's why prostitution is essentially illegal, because she or he, my he and she bitches that have, I'm just kidding, I don't have any out there working, um, are seeing multiple people in their geographical area. And then your names or the prosty and the Johns, their names are registered. So they're saying, hey, you're servicing multiple people in our area. Your name is registered to us. So that is a commercial operation. You are not licensed. Same thing with fighting. Same thing with drug dealing. All that stuff. They do all the same things. Have you? Hold on. Turn the camera off. This interview is over. Have you guys ever thought about the lunacy of this, educationally speaking? Should I go out and find a prosty, jump in the back seat of her car, and I beat it up as a wolf would? I could be charged. She could be arrested too. Now you see why. But if we were to get a filming license, film it in the same car, preferably not on the regular streets unless you get permission from the city. Then we're shooting a corn O. See the difference? Knowing the laws. That's all I'm going to say. Let's get back over there, shall we? So they're right. They're absolutely right. If this was me breaking this down legally, I would be challenging what the definition of person is, operate, motor vehicle, highway, and are licenses required for public or private events. In general, a person shall not operate. So they're right. We don't know what kind of person they're talking about, but nonetheless shall not operate. Well, that's, I mean, all these are commercial words: operate and motor vehicle. And then if you allow them to convey that the what you're standing on or your vehicle's on is a highway. If I was going to be a dick, I would argue highway. I'd say, well, this is a covered path. You put your highway on top of the natural dirt path that I'm using. All right, let's keep going. So, MCL 257.255, vehicle registration requirement, applies to vehicles driven, okay, that's commercial, or moved upon a highway that are required, okay, which only things that are required are things that are public to be registered. But again, Michigan doesn't define resident. They don't define non-resident private vehicles because they really can't. Well, they could talk about it. They could say what a non-resident private vehicle is. They could put the word up, they could define it, and they could say exempt. But they don't do that like many other states because then all you're going to do is say, well, here's what I was doing. They're not going to give you the easy peasy. They're going to give you what you only can see and try to work with that. But one of your defenses is that, hey, you don't have a defined term for this. This is how I was operating. So, but as long as you haven't done anything commercial in nature, you dealt with the registrations across the board, and you're not doing anything criminal, you can do that. The moment you do something criminal, dirty, or hurt somebody else, you have waived your right. Gone. And now you got to fight to get them back. So, Black Law's Dictionary, driver, one employed to conduct a vehicle, motor vehicle, commercial regulated class of vehicles. I mean, it's really right in the name. You can take them apart just by asking simple questions. Your Honor, seeing how we're here today, could it be legally said that this is all regulated? I mean, it's a regulation, right? That's what we're dealing with. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so if you're trying to say that my vehicle is in this regulated class of vehicles, right? Yeah, okay. And that regulated class of vehicles is you guys refer to it as a motor vehicle, correct? Well, yes, that's true. Okay, great, great. That being said, uh, can you regulate private things not registered to you? Because that sounds like the public. And what's the opposite of the public? Or excuse me, because only the public can regulate things. So opposite of the public is what? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Private, Your Honor, it's private. The opposite of the public is the private. So do you regulate private things? I mean, some things do fall within our jurisdiction, sidestepping the question. Okay, but if not actually registered officially and legally not, then you can't regulate that, right? Unless it's criminal or something like that. Right. So, okay, so if you can't regulate the private, then that means that public, and then I read the charter for this courthouse in the state. It says you guys have public, which is commercial administration. That would be correct. Okay. No further questioning, Your Honor. Operate transportation, also commercial, commercial. But once again, you waive yourself from being in the private the moment you do anything like transporting people, property, you operate, you take the vehicle that you own that's a private conveyance and register it to them. It then becomes a motor vehicle. See, only the owner of a vehicle, of a thing, can name it. Why can't the police officer rename your vehicle if it's private? Because he doesn't own it. He's making an assumption of law, and that does not give him legal authority. Legislatively, he cannot rename it. It doesn't give him the authority. He's operating then in what's known as ultra vires, outside of his capacity and power. Legislative deep dive for Michigan. They deal with fuel regulation, commercial carriers, highway commerce. So it's not essentially the highway that they control or own. They maintain it. They maintain the peace on it. But if you're doing commerce, then they can administer over you. If you're private on the highway, they cannot control you. But if you're speeding or operating erratically or no plate or crazy or your plate looks like the state's plate, now you're entering what looks like commerce to them and they have the right to intercede in your event, see what's going on. Make sure you're not in their jurisdiction on paper by your activity. Taxation, of course, they are a taxing authority. They can tax anything within their jurisdiction on paper to their entity. There's a big gem drop there. No legislative intent to regulate private non-commercial travel by nationals. Yeah, they don't have that. They can't. But you can waive if you're out doing stupid shit. Then you're waiving this. Now they can get into your business. This is why it's different here than basically any other country in the world. Because we have this layering here. Now, what some of the elite in the Michigan, and well, I won't say Michigan personally, but we'll say the states, certain aspects, factions, clandestine parts of the government, they're trying to pull everything into the public, into their jurisdiction. They don't want you to know about the private. Why? Why don't they want us to know about the private? Because some people out there do not operate and act like human beings. They want to rob and esse people and take away your rights and whatever else. So from their perspective, it's better to bring everybody from the private to the public, and they can't even begin to challenge. But if you're in the private and you can live like a non-belligerent, non-combatant human being, do no harm, then you're not in their jurisdiction for them to do anything to you, not legally or lawfully. But the moment you do something stupid from the private, you've waived that and pulled yourself into the public to be administered because you are considered a belligerent and combatant, a monster. Matter of fact, in the old Black Law's dictionary, the word human meant monster, an automaton, somebody who's not in their mind capacity to regulate themselves. And you must then be controlled whether you like it or not. You're a beast, you're a monster. They regulate monsters. This is one of the things that we'll just say certain um, principalities used against Native Americans to say, "Oh well, you're you're not civilized for city life. You're a savage." Well, we kind of don't get me wrong. There were some truly savage Native Americans, but there was also some very savage civilized people too. They regulate licensed drivers, vehicles registered to them in commerce, the transportation of goods and passengers, vehicles used for hire, commercial carriers. Nothing in here states anything about private. So as long as you do not operate as a monster, beast, belligerent, or combatant, you're doing right to travel. You're good. If they bother you, pull you over for no reason, it's a lawsuit. They're interfering with your interstate travel. Doesn't mean you're above the law. Doesn't mean you can speed or be like, oh, I'm going to test it out. You can test it out. They're still going to arrest you. And if they ask you why were you speeding and you don't have a provable and can't articulate a good reason why you were doing that, because what were you doing then? You were endangering public safety. And if you're not speeding your wife to the hospital or your guts aren't about to explode from salmonella or something that would make sense why you're doing that, you're not going to win your case. And because you use your vehicle in that way, they could say, well, that was for no reason you were doing that. Well, you've waived your rights over you and your vehicle. And we're going to take your vehicle. We're going to do this. Because especially doing certain miles per hour over the speed limit can be considered criminal. Because if you hit somebody at those speeds, you could take their life. You are entering into a dangerous game and level at that point in time. So don't do it. If you're saying that you're smart enough and whatever for right to travel, then you actually have to be what you say you are. If you are who you say you are. So that's it, guys. Take care. I'll talk to you later. Wolf's out.